robotic. All right, folks, listen up. Less than 5% of roofing systems are properly ventilated. What is that gonna do to your roofing system? Well, that's what this FAQ video is for. I've been on probably over 5,000 roofs in my tenure as a roofer, and I can tell you for certain that an improperly installed ventilation system wreaks havoc not only on the the integrity of the roofing system, but it causes big problems for you inside of your home. What are the different types of ventilation? Well, you got ridge vent, you got box vents, you got my personal favorite, whirlybirds. Woo! All right. What do these products have in common? Well, they ventilate your roof. They cause airflow, or they create airflow to stop hot air from being trapped inside, cool air from being trapped inside, and it gives you the ability for your home, or it gives your home the ability to breathe. What happens if it's not improperly installed, or it's not installed to the right magnitude? Well, essentially, there's a plethora of things that can happen, but what we see most commonly on the roof surface is things called thermal cracking and blistering. What is that? When you're hot, you can take your clothes off, right? You can start to shed layers. Your roof can't do that. What it can do is shed its components. So it's going to eventually start to degranulate. It's gonna kick off the granules that protect it from UV light, and then it's gonna expose the asphalt, and the asphalt is gonna eventually dry out. It's gonna wash off, and your house is gonna be exposed. All of these things that I've described are going to eventually accelerate your roof's death. Additionally, what we see a lot of times is your home doesn't have proper intake. What does that mean? There's two types of ventilation systems. There's an active system and a passive system. And a passive system is what you generally see. You have soffits at the eaves of your house, and there's ventilation on the bottom. Air flows in, this is your intake. And on the roof, the components I just showed you, the whirlybirds, the ridge vents, and the box vents, those are the outtake. Air effectively transfers through them and cycles out, right? So nothing gets trapped inside the attic. If you don't have an intake, air and just heat from the sun is going to get trapped inside of the attic, and it's going to eventually cause that degranulation. It's also going to cause problems for you as the occupant inside the house. It's going to become hotter and hotter and hotter. Generally, if you have a very hot upstairs and a not so hot downstairs, and you have an AC, or you have a heating and air conditioning inside your house, if you can't seem to manage that heat upstairs, it's probably because of the improper installation or just lack of installation of your ventilation on your roof. The opposite of that can be said as well. If you have improper ventilation on the roof and it's cold outside, the cold air can be trapped inside of the home for longer than it should. And what does that cause for you? Well, you should be hearing money signs, the cha-ching going off in your head. You're losing money every day by increasing your heat inside your home to counteract that problem. And the opposite, when it's hot outside, you're spending way too much on heating and air conditioning because your roof wasn't properly installed and the ventilation is incorrect. We've talked about the passive airflow system. What is an active airflow system? That's where we install either a motor into the roof. This can be solar powered or electrical powered with a switch inside, but that's going to actively draw air out. So you have motorized vents on your roof. Additionally, you can add the components like I told you before, my favorite, the whirlybird. That thing sits on your roof, wind pushes it and spins it, and it creates its own vacuum and pulls air out of the attic. So what can you do about this? Well, when Pride Roofing and Construction comes out to your home, what we could do is install these whirlybirds. We could turn your passive airflow system into an active airflow system by installing the components, the motorized ventilation. When you elect for our team to come out and perform your 32-point inspection, what we can do is measure the square footage of your home and tell you just how improperly installed the ventilation is and what kind of problems that could be contributing to. And if you elect to have us re-roof your home, we're always going to bring it up not only to code, but to ventilation standards so that we can avoid these heating and air conditioning problems in the future. If you're not re-roofing the home, you can also do certain things like remove your box vents and install a ridge vent. Ridge vents have more outtake opportunity than just your standard box vent will, because that's isolated. I've seen a lot of funky things on roofs in my time as a roofer. Previous installers thought, well, it's not ventilated properly, so let's just add a bunch more ventilation. The problem with that is if they're too close together, they create a vacuum next to each other and it completely voids the use of having an intake and an outtake. Sometimes they're putting two different components that are, like they put ridge vent with a box vent and create that vacuum. That's not the answer. The answer is to have it actually assessed, properly installed in proportion so they're not too close to each other creating those vacuums. Or we can install my favorite, a whirlybird, where your box vent used to be and effectively draft more air or pull more air out of that individual space. I know this is a little bit of a boring topic for some of you guys. It is for me too, which is why we tried to make it fun with all of the different things that we brought to the mix. However, you're not going to think it's that boring when you're sitting inside of a sweltering home, or it's absolutely too cold, you don't know what to do about it, and you're paying way too much for your heating and air conditioning costs. Again, I'm Christian. This is Pride Roofing and Construction's FAQ video series, and this was improper ventilation. If you're concerned that you have one of these problems because of what I just talked about, whether that's granules blowing off, or not blowing off, but running off and filling up your gutters, running down your downspouts into your driveway, or whether that's just a hot upstairs, call us. We'll perform that 32-point inspection. We'll assess your ventilation and we'll give you the proper steps to be able to fix that problem. Again, just like always, please like, subscribe, comment, engage in this content. If it's relevant to you, it's relevant to somebody else. So let's learn something out here. Catch you on the flip side. All right. I don't know what to do with my hands. I feel like Ricky Bobby. The car drove real fast. Felt like I was in a spaceship.